So I teach conversational Spanish, which means everything I do is from the point of view of what is a conversation, right? So just to clarify, a conversation is just a simple talk, right? Where two or more people are exchanging ideas or information, right? So this exchange of information looks like this, if I can illustrate it, right? Typically speaking, you start with an idea of what you want to say, right? And then you would form a question based off of that idea. For example, ¿comes burritos? Right? Now, the person, your conversation partner, has to hear the question, forms another idea in their head based off of that question, and then responds verbally. Sí, como burritos. So the primary component to a conversation is what we call a verb, right? Most conversations are made of questions and answers. Learning how to change the verbs based on the exchange of information is how to start speaking Spanish, right? So to truly be able to speak Spanish, you have to be able to do this in your head on the fly, where we're seeing comes changes over to como. So comes is do you eat? Como is yes, I eat. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So to be able to speak Spanish, to be able to converse, you have to be able to ask questions, understand questions, and form a response. So let's talk about that today. So as I mentioned, the verb is the primary component here. Taking you back to middle school grammar class, a verb is an action, it's an activity, right? So if I look at this sentence, I eat burritos, or yo como burritos. If you have any doubt what the verb is, ask yourself, what's happening? So what's happening in this sentence, Kaylee?
Eating burritos.
Eating.
I eat burritos.
Eat. Yeah. Eat is the activity, right? Now, to say I eat, you say yo como burritos. To say you eat, you say tú comes burritos. So in Spanish, the verb itself is going to change depending on who is doing the activity, right? So this is what we're looking at here. Yo como, tú comes, right? That O changes to ES here. And that's the conversational exchange that's going to help you start speaking Spanish with confidence. So if I want to say I say yo. If I want to say you, I would say tú. However, these words are optional in Spanish because the verb itself changes. You don't actually have to say yo or tú. Oh. So let's take a look at a verb like desear, which means to want. This particular form of the verb is what's called the verb infinitive. It's just the raw verb that you would look up in a dictionary, right? Mm-hmm. As we'll later see, when we start connecting with more complex sentences, this AR ending is essentially the equivalent to the word to in English, right? When we would say to want. For now, let's just focus on the simple verb form, right? So we've got three types of regular verbs. All verbs in Spanish either end with AR, ER, or IR. We're going to look at the first two today. So an AR verb ends with AR. For example, desear, which means to want, or if you look at the Latin cognate, to desire, we can modify that by taking away the AR ending. So this is the first step to what we call verb conjugation. If you want to say I want, you remove that AR ending, and you're going to get what is called the base or the stem. People call it different things, but in this situation, dese is the base. And that's what we're going to add back to the I want part, right? The I form of AR verbs always ends with an O. So to say I want, we would say yo deseo. Okay. The U form always ends with an AS. So to say you want, we would say tú deseas. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. All right, so let's break this down with the different verbs that we've learned, right? So desear means to want. Yo deseo means I want. Tú deseas means you want. You want. All right, ordenar, let's practice.
Yo ordeno, tú ordenas. Yo tomo, tú tomas. Yo reservo. Tú reservas. Yo bailo. Tú bailas. Yo cocino. Tú cocinas. Yo escualo.
Esquío.
Esquio. Oh, sorry, I thought that was an L. Tú esquias. Yo viajo. Tú viajas. Yo ordeno un burrito. Tú tomas una cerveza. Yo reservo una mesa para dos. Tú deseas postre. ¿Qué significa postre?
Dessert.
Dessert. Okay. Tú bailas bien. Yo cocino comida mexicana. Yo esquío poco. Tú viajas mucho.
All right. So now we've got what we call an ER verb. Exact same thing, ends with ER. To eat is comer. So again, this ER ending is like the word to in English. So the first step to saying I eat is we remove that ER ending and we get our base, com, in this situation. Now we're going to add back an O again to say I eat, yo como.
Mm-hmm.
To say you eat, this time we add back ES because it's an ER verb. Tú comes.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So comer, how do you say I eat?
Yo como.
You eat.
Tú comes.
Bebe.
Yo bebos.
Just
bebo.
yo bebo, right? The S
Okay.
is in the U form.
Tú bebes. Yo leo. Tú lees. Yo corro. Tú corres.
Corres.
I want that.
This word, for whatever reason, confuses everybody, but it's the same rule. Take away the AR ending and we have our base, cor, in this situation, cor, right?
Corres.
And then you add back ES, corres.
Yo como un burrito. Tú bebes una cerveza. Yo leo un libro. Tú corres en el parque. Tú lees la revista. Yo bebo jugo. Tú comes tacos. Yo corro cada día.
Perfecto, right? So, as we've just learned, verbs are the primary components of a conversation. So to put this together conversationally, we ask a question in the to form or the you form, ¿deseas una galleta? And then we answer it in the yo form. Sí, deseo una galleta. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So again,
Yep.
It's just this little change of the verb that means everything conversationally. So to simplify this, right, I'm going to take you through a series of questions now. You just answer in the yo form, right? So you take the verb and you change that ending to an O, and now you're speaking Spanish. ¿Comes los burritos?
Yo como los burritos.
¿Bebes la cerveza?
Yo bebo la cerveza.
And then try to answer without saying yo. ¿Lees las noticias?
Leo las noticias.
It's not incorrect to say yo leo, but conversationally, most Spanish speakers don't say it. So say it if you want to, but you know, I kind of like to try and
good to know.
People to drop it from the beginning just because it's almost
it.
redundant.
It's redundant, yeah.
It really is, yeah. ¿Corres en el parque?
Corro en el parque.
¿Tomas el café?
Tomo el café.
¿Ordenas la pizza por teléfono?
Ordeno la pizza por teléfono.
¿Deseas unas vacaciones?
Deseo unas vacaciones.
¿Bailas la salsa?
Bailo la salsa.
¿Cocinas bien?
Cocino bien.
¿Esquías en la montaña?
Esquío en la montaña.
¿Viajas frecuentemente?
Viajo frecuentemente.
¿Reservas un hotel pronto?
Reservo un hotel pronto.
Right? So that's conversational Spanish. You're officially speaking Spanish, right? If you can do that, you know. Now keep in mind, there's a lot more to learn. Obviously, you have to learn a lot more verbs. You have to learn a lot more vocabulary. But remind me, did you take Spanish in high school or college?
I did. I took it in high school.
Yeah. And did your teacher show you this?
No.
Nobody ever does. No other
No.
teachers that I know of. This is my own little unique approach that I've put together based in the way a conversation. So when I say I teach conversational Spanish, this is what it is, right? And this is why I think my students get very conversational very quickly, right? And this is kind of an idea that I've had for years. I've put it into practice with my classes, but then I got to see this actually happen with my son when he learned how to speak his first language, right? You know, when he was first learning how to talk, he wasn't able to form, you know, complete sentences. He started with words, but when he was starting to form sentences, what really gave me this idea is, you know, I would be talking to him, and in all of the situations, I'm asking him a question. Do you want milk? And he's answering the question. Yes, I want milk. So that's naturally the first kind of conversational exchange that people learn. Therefore, this is how I teach my classes, and it works really, really well. So.